Queen Elizabeth I wasn't just a queen, she was a living legend. She called herself the Virgin Queen, wore lavish gowns covered in jewels, and ruled with a sharp mind and iron will. People remember her for her powerful court, defeating the Spanish Armada, and turning England into a strong Protestant nation. But behind the beauty and power beneath the heavy makeup and shining pearls was a woman filled with fear, pride, and obsession. She cared deeply about how others saw her, and when it came to staying clean, things got strange. Back then, hygiene wasn't about health, it was about appearances. And Elizabeth made it into a performance. She believed water could make her sick. She feared aging so much that she treated her body like something sacred, untouchable by time or even soap. In this video, we'll reveal 5 of the weirdest, most shocking things Queen Elizabeth I did to stay clean. And the last one, you won't believe Elizabeth had a serious addiction: sugar. At the time, sugar was rare, costly, and imported from distant lands. Most people never even tasted it. But for the Queen of England, it was everywhere. She didn't just enjoy sweets, she indulged in them. Her royal meals included candied violets, sugar-dusted fruits, sweet almond marzipan, and syrup-soaked desserts. Sugar became a symbol of wealth and power. Elizabeth didn't just consume it, she flaunted it, showing off England's growing influence. But here's the disturbing part. This sweet obsession had a dark side. In the 1500s, dental care was crude. People used twigs, rags, or crushed eggshells to clean their teeth. Elizabeth had her own mix of homemade toothpaste made with herbs and sugar. Yes, sugar, the very thing destroying her teeth, was also in her cleaning routine. She also used abrasive powders that wore down her enamel. Over time, her once regal smile decayed. Foreign visitors noticed. By the 1590s, her teeth were black, broken, or gone. Her breath reportedly made people around her uncomfortable. Her speech was hard to understand, she spoke through a mouth of rot. Still, she refused to have teeth pulled. She feared the pain. One courtier even had a tooth pulled in front of her to prove it was safe. Imagine that, someone screaming in agony just to persuade the queen to open her mouth. But the strangest part, the noble women in her court copied her. They blackened their own teeth with soot to match hers. In her world, tooth decay became fashionable. If the queen had black teeth, then black teeth meant beauty, power, and status. The darker the smile, the wealthier you were. In Elizabeth's court, even rotten teeth became a royal trend. That's the power of monarchy.
You might have heard the shocking quote, "I bathe once a month whether I need it or not." Some claim Queen Elizabeth I said this. Others say it's just a myth, but it reflects how strange hygiene was in the 1500s. Back then, water was seen as risky. People thought it carried illness, weakened the body, and let in bad air, what they called miasma. It was blamed for spreading disease. So, bathing wasn't healthy, it was dangerous. Elizabeth avoided it. Instead of soap and water, she changed her linen underclothes called shifts several times a day. People believed the fabric absorbed sweat and toxins. No water required, just clean fabric. When she did freshen up, she used rose water, vinegar, or herbal mixtures prepared by her apothecaries. These were gently dabbed on by handmaids in a slow, deliberate ritual, not for hygiene, but for image. Her body was treated like something sacred, perfect, and untouchable. Why not just take a bath? Because it was a huge ordeal. Her palaces had no plumbing or running water. A bath meant dragging out a large wooden tub, heating dozens of buckets, and calling in several servants to fill and stir the water. It was like hosting a royal ceremony. Bathing was a luxury, not a routine. Yet people called her clean. She wore countless gowns of silk and velvet. She smelled of flowers and spices. She carried perfumed gloves, scented handkerchiefs, and demanded perfection from head to toe. But it was an illusion: no scrubbing, no soap, no rinsing. Elizabeth didn't avoid baths out of laziness. She avoided them to preserve the illusion. Water could smudge her white makeup. It could make her human. And in her mind, a queen wasn't supposed to be human. Queen Elizabeth's face is one of the most iconic in history. White like porcelain, smooth like stone, cold like marble. But that wasn't her real skin, it was a mask. Painted daily, not for beauty, but for control. Pale skin meant status and divinity. The whiter you were, the higher you stood. Elizabeth took this idea to the extreme. Her favorite product? The ninchenture is a deadly mixture of white lead and vinegar. It gave her flawless skin, covering every blemish and shadow. But it was toxic. It seeped into her skin, causing rashes and scars. As her real face broke down, she added more layers. Thicker, heavier, until her face was a frozen mask. For her lips, she used bright reds made from mercury and other poison. Over time, she grew sick. Her mood shifted. Her memory faded. Her hands trembled. Classic mercury poisoning. She had no idea she was killing herself with makeup. But why keep doing it? Because her face wasn't just hers, it was England's. Her image was power. She seemed timeless, divine, unbreakable. She banned artists from painting her real face. Instead, they used official templates from her youth. No matter her age, her portraits stayed young. She avoided natural light. Shadows and candlelight hid the damage. In her final years, people said her makeup would crack if touched. She barely washed her face. Why would she? Washing meant erasing the illusion, revealing an aging woman behind the myth. Did she know it was poison? Historians debated. But one thing's certain, she chose image over health. She destroyed her body to keep Gloriana alive. To understand Elizabeth's hygiene, you have to understand her fear losing control. Every inch of her powdered face, perfumed gloves, and curated scent wasn't just vanity. It was power. In her era, bathing wasn't just rare, it was intimate. Water exposed the body. It made you vulnerable. And Elizabeth had seen her mother, Anne Boleyn, destroyed by court politics. She refused to appear weak. To her, a naked body was a fragile body. So, she avoided water and built a new kind of cleanliness. One made of ritual and scent. Each day, she surrounded herself with sweet, strong smells. Her handmaids prepared rose water, lavender oil, and vinegar infusions in palace still rooms. These were not for cleaning, but for masking. A few dabs behind the ears. A scented handkerchief in her sleeve. A perfumed breeze followed her everywhere. She carried pomanders, small balls filled with herbs and resin stuck into her gown. When foul odors neared, she lifted one to her nose. It was more than comfort, it was a message. I'm not like you. I don't stink. Even her clothes played a role. Gloves were perfumed. Dresses were stiff and layered to trap scent. She gave out scented gloves to courtiers, a gift from her image, not her skin. Her hair, rarely washed. It was stiffened with sugar water and egg whites, then powdered. As she aged and lost hair, likely from years of poison, she wore auburn wigs. But under the perfume and powder, her body was decaying. The makeup had scarred her skin. Whispers told of sores and peeling flesh. Still, she layered on more. She even banned mirrors. Not even she was allowed to see the truth. A servant's only job was to powder her shoulders in private, so no one ever saw her real skin. Elizabeth became a prisoner of her image. Bathing wasn't skipped out of laziness, it threatened the mask. Washing meant admitting she was human. And Elizabeth spent her life trying to be more than that. In her final years, she carried a scented walking stick. When near foul-smelling courtiers, she'd raise it to her nose, not just to block the odor, but to remind them, I am the queen. I'm not like you. Her body was no longer flesh, it was the crown. And it had to stay perfect. From the outside, Queen Elizabeth's palaces looked like paradise, golden walls, velvet halls, music in the air. But step inside, and it smelled different. There were no toilets, no sinks, no plumbing. That's right, behind the glamour, it smelled like a sewer. Her private toilet was a cushioned wooden chair called a close stool. Under the cushion, a ceramic pot. It had to be emptied, cleaned, and perfumed daily. And not by a servant, by a royal officer, the groom of the stool. Despite the name, he wasn't a janitor. He was a trusted noble. He helped the queen dress, managed private matters, and even discussed politics. In this strange world, helping with her waste meant power. But the rest of the palace was worse. No flush toilets, just chamber pots and bowls dumped into cesspits or outside walls. Cleaning was left to gone farmers or night soil men. They worked after dark, hauling buckets of human waste through narrow halls and steep stairs. The smell was horrible and constant. To fight it, the palace burned herbs like lavender and rosemary. Flowers were scattered on the floors. straw-soaked in oil-lined hallways. But these weren't cleaned off, and rot and filth built up underneath. Not even the queen could escape the stink. She moved from palace to palace, not just for politics, but to outrun the smell. Perfume couldn't hide it forever. This was the truth of royal life: gold on the outside, decay beneath, power beside filth. The most powerful woman in England lived in a palace that stank. But Elizabeth didn't rule by accident. She ruled with strategy, style, and illusion. Her hygiene wasn't careless, it was calculated. Every mist bath, every perfumed glove, every powdered wig was part of a performance. In a world where one rumor could destroy a woman's power, she became untouchable. Water could break the mask. A bare face could destroy the myth. So she powdered, perfumed, and posed and became a legend. Elizabeth I may not have been clean by today's standards, but she was flawless by design. In her world, soap and water weren't tools. They were threats. She didn't just survive, she mastered the art of being seen, without being known. Her true cleanliness wasn't on her skin. It was in her image. And for a queen, image was everything.